Hey Star System fans, it's Gloith here from Renegade Squadron. Before I talk about space combat in PTU 3.10, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on any of our videos made during the month of July for a chance to win a Mustang Alpha. So after playing PTU 3.10 extensively, here are the changes and my feedback. To start off with, the flight model changed dramatically. So what changed? Well, CIG added Ramdown Jerk to both rotational and translational accelerations. What this means is that your ships won't instantly throttle down or stop rotating the second you let go of the stick. This is probably the most noticeable feature of the game, as Ramdown Jerk causes intended oversteer that has to be manually adjusted for. However, it does lower the ability to stray spam with your translation since the thrusters don't initially stop thrusting from their initial vector. Additionally, overheating is very easy to do in combat, which will cause ships to lose control of their rotation when overheated. Additionally, the pace of combat has also slowed down as a result. From what I can see, CIG wants space combat experience to be slower and smoother. Additionally, I think they want the skill mechanic to come from controlling your ship and heat better than your opponent. Additionally, from what I can see, they also want ships like the Vanguard to be ineffective at hitting smaller ships, even if they're dangling right in front of them. I could see this as a way of making light and medium fighters more engaging for dogfighting combat, whereas a heavy fighter like a Vanguard might be more tailored for taking on freelancers and constellations and anything bigger. However, in my opinion, much of the changes leads to a very tedious and imprecise way of controlling your ship. And I say that as somebody who regularly goes 7-1 or even 8-0. Now imagine being a new player who just got into a ship and is trying to fly for the first time. They're probably going to figure out this is just really kind of an unenjoyable experience, just having to constantly fight your own ship, rather than do the things that you want to do. In other words, much of the human capital is spent controlling the ship's rotation rather than performing advanced maneuvers like a skidded roll or a merge pass with a rollover. Furthermore, it's incredibly hard to push against an opponent, as they tend to backstraight even more than they used to just to control their nose of their ship, making positional combat even harder to come by than previous patches. So in order to fix this, I think CIG needs to reduce the jerk effects on a lot of the ships, especially ships like the Vanguard. Additionally, they need to increase the rotational acceleration on a lot of these ships so that they control a little bit better. Furthermore, they also need to reduce some of the rotation rates on some of the medium and especially on the heavy fighters. After all, I don't expect the Vanguard to be tracking an arrow 100% of the time, which it currently can do, it just can't do it precisely. Now, to improve positional combat, we actually need to put ourselves in a situation where we have to use that rotational personality that CIG wants us potentially to use. And to do that, we need a 3-to-1 forward to backward acceleration ratio. Right now, it's about 1.5 to 1, which makes pushing extremely difficult. If CIG increased forward acceleration and nerfed backward acceleration, we would see true positional combat occurring much more frequently. That being said, I kind of enjoy the slower pace of combat, though, as it makes leg pips much more viable. Next on the docket is Gunnery. There's been a lot of changes, and one of the big ones that's front and center is the fixed assistance, aka FA, on fixed weapons. Now this makes it much easier to hit with weapons by nudging the bullets towards the center of the cross section. This was added to ships and also turrets to make fixed guns competitive with auto gimbal and make multi-crew turret gameplay viable. Additionally, turrets received a significant control improvement, such as having a DPI up and down and a DPI press, and now turrets are able to be controlled directly with mouse, V-Joy, and even with joystick. My take on this is that fixed assistance brings a lot to the table, and I'm not just talking about making it easier to aim, but also makes positional combat even more worthwhile since the bullets nudge towards the center of cross section. So take a look at the illustration that I'm going to go put up on the screen, and you'll see what I mean. Under normal circumstances, those shots without assistance would normally miss, but with fixed assist, it's actually worthwhile to push in on an opponent and use the lag pips to target a specific part of the ship rather than go nose to nose to score a kill. After all, the highest hit chance of a ship is on its nose. However, fixed assist on turrets is a complete game changer, making multi-crew ships like the Hammerhead or the Hurricane a force to be reckoned with. As far as auto gimbal goes, we're going to just have to see how fixed assist pilots stack up against auto gimbal pilots and see if there's still any imbalance using auto gimbal. The next topic I would like to talk about is targeting. Now our HUDs will only display hostiles directly in front of us or who have us locked. However, we can cycle hostiles that have us locked or click on the radar globe for those that are not in front of us. Additionally, we can now lock and pin targets to keep track of them, like in RTS. However, my personal feelings on targeting is that we should have rather used the old system and added pin targets to that. Now, my only real major gripe with the old system was that the ship would announce a new contact, which I personally think kind of hurts stealth gameplay, being notified automatically that a ship is within your vicinity. Now the next topic is one that's really dear to all of our hearts, and that is missiles and countermeasures, because missiles are so balanced. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Now, we have seen some changes to countermeasures. IRs are a lot easier to evade now. Well, EM and cross sections are tricky to evade, but you can at least evade them now. But my real take on this is missiles just simply need to have their maneuvering acceleration dramatically reduced. It's really high if you look at the game files, and that should hopefully make it easier to evade them. And I also think that once we get that missile operator mode in 3.11, it should hopefully fix a lot of things. Now the last topic I'm going to discuss is the UI changes. There was a lot of UI changes that came with 3.10 with turrets, auto gimbal, fixed guns UIs, and much more. So just kind of break it down on turrets. We've got turrets now have a compass. They have a visual indicator of being within the FA cone, and they also have a DPI scaling and press UI as well. As far as auto gimbals, we've got visualization of auto gimbal location, auto gimbal lock indicator, and then on fixed guns we now have the fixed gun dot with the circle around it to illustrate kind of where that fixed assist is contained. Other changes include pips received a UI change. We now have a heading indicator and much more. Personally, I love almost all the UI changes, except for the fact that they're simply way too faint and are easily washed out by light backgrounds. We really need to see UI bolded with drop shadows. Additionally, the pip UI should really be a contrasting color compared to the target being locked. For example, if I target a red target, which is a hostile, I should see a green pip and elements that are on top of that red target. Or vice versa, with a green target, it should have red on top of that. Otherwise, if that's too much, just go back to the neutral blue color scheme that worked in the past. Additionally, auto gimbal UI, as mentioned in the gunnery, is really kind of busy and should be toned down. I see a lot of circles within circles. It's just a lot to keep track of compared to previous iterations. Now I know many of you who are watching this video are extremely excited about 3.10. After all, there's a lot of amazing changes. However, I would think it very important to temper your expectations, as the flight model and other combat changes will occur in subsequent patches. However, if you wish to provide your PTU feedback, please do so in the links in the description. Remember, 3.10 is in PTU and a lot can change, so your feedback is essential. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and comment for a chance to win a Mustang Alpha. I'll see you next time. Renegade Squadron signing off.